itinerary. Thank you for coming. I have some prepared remarks before we take some questions. Yesterday, we arrested a 77-year-old Edmonds man. He's suspected of murdering 20-year-old Jody Loomis in 1972. His name is Terrence Miller. He was charged with murder in the first degree yesterday afternoon. We took him into custody yesterday morning without incident at his residence, and he was identified as a suspect through the process of genealogical DNA. This is similar to what we used in our arrest last year of the suspect in the 1987 cold case murder of Jay Cook and Tanya Van Kuylenborg. Before I begin a little background on the case, I want to thank Detective Jim Scharf, the other detectives and volunteers from the Snohomish County Sheriff's Office who worked tirelessly on this case. I also want to thank Parabon Nanolabs and genetic genealogist Deb Stone, who did great work in helping us arrive at this place today. Without their determination, and along with advances in DNA technology, we would not be here today. Today's arrest is just one of an increasing number of arrests around the country that are happening every day as a result of genetic genealogy advancement. With each arrest, we get closer to answering the question all families of victims want to know: what happened, and hopefully a why. Whether a murder happened yesterday, last year, or over 4 decades ago, it's our duty to the victims and their families to find their killer. Today, we're one step closer to finding justice for Jody Loomis and her family, and I'll go into a little background on the case at this point. On August 23rd, 1972, 20-year-old Jody Loomis intended to ride her bicycle from her residence on 20 Winesap Road to Strummy Road, where she was going to ride her horse kept at a stable there. She rode north on North Road from Filbert Road to 164th Street and east to the Bothell Everett Highway. She was last seen crossing the highway and riding up the hill on Penny Creek Road in what is now Mill Creek. At approximately 5:30 p.m., 2 people found Jody disrobed and shot in the heads in the woods off of Penny Creek Road. They transported her to Stevens Memorial Hospital in Edmonds, where she was pronounced deceased. She was wearing only panties, socks, waffle stomper style boots that she had borrowed from her sister, her 12-year-old sister, that day. An autopsy determined that her cause of death was a gunshot wound to the head, likely from a .22. Also during the autopsy, multiple swabs were taken from her body, and some showed abundant spermatozoa. Missing from her bicycle was the bridle for her horse. In 2008, Detective Scharf sent a number of items to the Washington State Patrol Crime Lab for DNA testing. Among the items sent to the crime lab were the boots that Jody was wearing that day. The Washington State Patrol Crime Lab indicated that the spermatozoa had been located on the left boot, and spermatozoa were microscopically visible. So the partial DNA profile obtained from the semen on the left boot was determined to be that of an unknown male, and the partial profile from that sperm fraction was then uploaded into the CODA system. There have never been any hits on that sample. Last July, the DNA extract from the suspect was sent to Parabon Nanolabs for analysis. In August of last year, we received the results naming possible relatives to the sample, and volunteer genealogist Deb Stone provided a report after she built a family tree. She identified a possible suspect. This is where Terrence Miller's name first came to our attention. Detectives followed Terrence Miller to a local casino and recovered a discarded coffee cup that he had used. A forensic scientist confirmed that DNA collected from the cup, discarded by Terrence Miller, matched the suspect DNA collected from the boots that Jody was wearing. Working with Prosecutor Craig Matheson, we put together a chargeable case against Terrence Miller. Miller did not know Jody Loomis prior to that day. He was interviewed by detectives yesterday, but declined to provide any statements about his involvement in the killing. We believe we have our murder suspect, but without his cooperation, we still have a few unanswered questions that we'd like to try to get resolved. First of all, what happened to the bridle for Jody's horse that she had with her that day? Did Miller possess any firearms in 1972? If so, what kind? What kind of vehicle did Miller drive around the time of the murder, and where did he work? Anyone who has information that can help us answer those questions is urged to call the Sonoma County Sheriff's Office tip line and provide that information to us. At this point, I'm willing to try to answer some questions. Obviously, I'm not the case detective, but I have some basic knowledge of the investigation and the case, and I'm happy to answer some questions.
Do you know when he'll be in court?
He'll be arraigned today at 1 o'clock.
Did he plead one way or another, or did he say?
He hasn't made any kind of a plea yet. That's the court process, the arraignment hearing, but he declined to provide us with any details of the case during the interview.
How long have you been aware of or working on this case?
I've been aware of the case for several years. I was a former homicide detective in the unit, and this is one of our cold cases. So this is our oldest cold case. It goes back to 1972. Detective Scharf and the volunteers that assist him and the other detectives in the unit, Detective Dunn, his partner, they've been working on this along with other cold cases for several years. And this is a process that we hope to leverage throughout the course of investigations on multiple cold cases and gain results that are hopefully going to bring some people to justice in the future.
What was your initial reaction, just your emotional reaction when you found out you actually had this guy?
I was new as the commander of the unit when I was told that this information was coming in, and I was excited. I have worked with detectives in the past who have worked on this case and others. It's exciting for us to have this opportunity and ability to solve cases and resolve questions that have been around for a long time.
And would you not be able, you wouldn't be able to do any of this without the advancements that science has made in terms of genetics and genealogy?
It's certainly been a great tool for us, and I won't say that we would never solve a cold case without it, but it definitely gives us an advantage in coming up with suspect profiles in ways that we don't really have another method to do.
What are the reactions of her family since
I
this news?
won't speak for the family on that.
Are they happy that this has come to fruition?
My understanding is yes, they're happy that we're at this point. We still have a lot of work to do. We still have court processes and investigation to do. It's not over, but it's the first step towards the end of the long road, I think.
Do you have any additional information? You said that it was a volunteer genealogist who worked on this. So is this something that you said test results came back in August and now we're in March. So this must be some sort of a lengthy process to piece together a family tree?
Yes. They're actually able to do the work as genetic genealogists fairly rapidly, depending on the quality of the information on the profile. We have investigative work that we need to do once we have that information to make confirmations and to get legal processes going and search warrants and things like that. So we're not going to rush anything. We're going to take our time and we're going to go through all of the steps, check every box that we have to do, and we're going to be careful, working in close concert with the prosecutor's office to make sure that when we're ready to make an arrest, we have a case that we believe we can take to trial and win.
Can you go into any additional details in terms of once you receive that family tree, some of the legwork that the detectives still have to do on a cold case like this?
The main thing is to confirm the sample, with the profile that we get. We have to get a sample from that person and confirm that, which is what we did in this case. Again, each case is different. They don't all follow the same track. It is situationally dependent, and it's just good old-fashioned police work and gumshoe detective work.
And how did you acquire the sample from the suspect?
He discarded a coffee cup at a casino, and we collected that, had it sent to the lab for testing, and that confirmed the profile.
Often in cases like this, the scientists will come back with a number like there's a 1 in 50 bazillion chance that this could not be the guy. Do you have those numbers?
I don't off the top of my head. That's certainly information that will be available, I think, through the affidavit's probable cause or further information that comes out through filings, but I don't know the exact number of exclusion at this point.
And what more can you tell us about the suspect's background? Any previous history of violence or sex crimes or anything like that?
Our understanding of his history
Could
is
you, I'm
outlined.
sorry, could you please go to the microphone?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Our understanding of his contacts with the criminal justice system is outlined in the probable cause certificate. I think all of you guys have a copy of that.
In cases like this, have you tried cases like this in the past? I mean, in terms of this evidence, is obviously enough for an arrest, and I don't know, can you kind of walk us through some of the next steps then?
Well, as the captain just indicated, that this is just the first step in a pretty long process. I really can't talk a whole lot about the specifics of what the police have found so far or what we're going to do next, but today is arraignment at 1 o'clock. Some dates will be set, and we'll start working.
Now, the evidence, over 40 years, and are we sure of like the safekeeping and the chain of custody? Is there any way to wiggle out of this? I mean, a coffee cup was got out of the trash. Could that be contaminated? Evidence, wherever it is, for over 40 years, could that be contaminated? Is there any way to wiggle out of this?
I'm sure that a defense attorney will be looking at that very question and see what they can find.
Are the two women seated here the family members identified on the press release?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Would either of you like to make a statement, just saying
They're,
your to the sheriff's office? Or?
Not at this time.
Their preference is that they'll provide a written statement that we'll provide to you later on this afternoon. Here, I'll take one more if there's anything else.
In looking through the probable cause and just scanning through it, it looks like he did have some sex crimes in his background. Can you discuss some of that?
Not today.
When the genealogist was putting together this family tree, how close were the hits in the public databases? Second cousin level, third cousin level?
Yeah, I believe the family tree was provided to you. I can't speak very specifically. I know that it was some distant cousins that were backtracked to a common ancestor, and then the tree was worked down to the parents of the suspect. That's a very brief and nutshell description of how the process works. But other than that, I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you for coming.
This had, we're just trying to get our heads around a motive. Was this a completely random attack? He said he didn't know her prior to this. Just
Yeah.
go ride your bike down the street.
Anything I say on that is going to be a big giant wild guess.